So, Shalini, opening remarks.
Opening remarks. I'm going to open with good evening, Priggya, and everybody who's watching it. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, and you too, Priggya. Opening remarks. So, an inventive step is used interchangeably with obviousness or non obviousness, and a patent, an invention, I would say, involves an inventive step if it is not obvious to a person who is skilled in the art, um, and is not, and with respect to any matter that forms the prior art base. So there has to be, if you can think of it, that all the prior art is at level 0 and you have to climb one level up, one step,
Yeah.
can be one or more steps.
Wow, awesome. I think you explained it very well that it should not be obvious to the person skilled in the art. Though, Shalini, I think many different laws, different countries use different languages. Like we have person ordinary skilled in the art, then we have person skilled in the art. So these are various terminologies, but I think they lead to only like similar stuff.
Yes, and we abbreviate them as FOSITA. I think everyone knows in the legal world it is known as FOSITA, but it is a person who is skilled in the art. So someone who would be an expert in that,
Yeah.
and that expert, their level of expertise is subjective. It's not an objective standard.
Yeah, definitely. Sabhinav says hello, both of you, Prigya and Shalini.
Hi, Abhinav.
Hi, Abhinav. Thank you for joining. I think you joined after a few weeks. Great to see you. So, Shalini, let's discuss few elements like the act, the Indian Patent Act. It says terminology. I think there are three key main terminology in our definition, which is technical advancement or economic significance or both, and it should not be obvious to the person skilled in the art. So we have discussed the person skilled in the art part of it. Now we can discuss the terminologies technical advancement or economic significance or both.
So, in terms of technical advancement, I think it takes us back to the original word of inventive step.
Yeah.
And I still always explain to my clients that think of climbing a step in terms of what technical expertise or technical improvement that is being involved, and economic significance. So you can, right, but again, that is a very gray area, because what is economic significance? For one, it's again a very subjective criteria, and therefore to say qualify as economic significance, economic, what was the word?
Significant.
Economic significance. Yeah, it's a very what is significant to me may not be to you. So
I
it's
think,
a dangerous area.
yeah, and I think, Shalini, the threshold of, especially when it comes to patents, the threshold of inventive step is technical advancement. Like
Yes,
technical advancement could be very high, technical advancement could be very low. And I always say we have, an inverse relationship. If technical advancement is very low, we need to show that it has very high economic significance. If technical advancement is very high, we might not show economic significance.
correct.
But technical advancement has to be there. Without it, it doesn't, like, we cannot get a patent, because patent at the end of the day is based on technology.
Absolutely. So you cannot get by with only economic significance.
Correct, correct.
But also, I think we need to keep in mind that depending on which area, which domain you are in, the technical advancement may be very small as
Correct.
come. So let's say if you're talking about pharmaceutical, or let's say you're talking about computer, SaaS or app making, there the technical advancement is very rapid.
Correct.
But if you're looking at some other field, which is, where advancement is very, very slow, then in that case, even a slight improvement, a slight advancement would qualify as patentable just because without showing a lot of economic significance, just because it is such an area where technical advancement is very slow.
Correct. So Abhinav says that he has all the questions on economic significance only. So Abhinav, you are right. You're absolutely right. For patents, technology is must, and without technology, we cannot get a patent. That is established by every law. So technical advancement, the economic significance is just another factor which adds to the technical advancement. It's like merely on the basis of economic significance, it is
Yes,
very, very difficult to establish.
correct.
But but Shalini, here I'll add one point. There is one general argument which we say as long felt need. Like
Mm.
sometimes, though the technological advancement is not very high, but people working in the industry could not use it, like they could not think of doing it. So in that case, we certainly sometimes argue that there was a long felt need to address this problem, and that's how we are addressing this problem. So it's kind of tweaking in a manner to show what we have done, which is technically advanced, but
Yeah,
nobody was able to do it. Do you
correct.
think
Yes,
this valid
absolutely. So that I think this falls in line with my previous argument also, that if the long felt need, or because the advancement is so slow because of whatever reason, lack of resources, lack of people working on it, or for whatever reason, then yes, I think then your point does.
correct?
So what else do we have on the agenda?
Abhinav has another comment. Earlier, for repair, we used to bring 220 ton of turbine to the works. It is used to cost 5 to 8 crore. However, we now transport exposed blade rotor. It costs 15 to 20 lakhs only. So, absolutely, I think this technology would then be patentable because it is reducing cost. So, there is the economic significance, but it is clubbed with technology. So,
So
that's
then So then the original definition where it says technical advancement or economic significance or both, that means the act does allow that there is no technical advancement, but there is only economic significance.
But then we have not ordinary to the person skilled in the art also, which again clubs to technical advancement.
Yes.
And you know
So
what?
I think,
My patent law teacher, I think we have studied from the same professor. So she always said, don't read it individually, read technical advancement or economic significance, then a comma or both. So your technical advancement is mandatory.
okay.
Yes, so
Yeah, my law.
she used to focus on that very, very thoroughly. That, and then we have person skilled in the art that is not with the or clause. So I think it is a taken fact that unless it is a technology, we cannot get a patent.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So what interesting things have you encountered
In inventive.
in yeah, with respect to inventive
I
stuff?
can tell you some of the interesting arguments that we take while establishing we have inventive step. One is this long felt need. When we do not find anything to argue, we argue that there was a long felt need which was not addressed. Then we take a problem solution approach, that there was a problem which was not addressed, and here is the solution. In this manner we are providing the solution. And then one most general part that we always do is try to establish what are the differences from the prior art
Hmm,
which exists in our patent. And it could be one feature which is not present in any of the previous patent applications or in any of the previous prior arts. So if that is the case, we are able to establish the inventive step.
absolutely. I'm just trying to think if I've had any inventive step objections, and I think not. I think there were just one or two cases where there was an inventive step objection, but that was because the title was not very clear. So once we amended the title, it was, it was shown why it was an inventive step. So, Prigya, tell me something. I can have something that is novel, but not have an inventive step.
See,
No.
I think for both, for like if we have novelty, tech inventive step would be there. Like we from the patent perspective, like how do we measure novelty or how do we measure inventive step? If I have this pen, I break down it in three elements and I want to check whether it is novel or not, I'll have to find one prior art which discloses this pen, then it is not novel, it is
Right,
anticipated. But so this pen uh, is not novel. But if I want to check inventive step, I'll take three different prior arts and see A plus B plus C is giving me this pen or not.
right.
So if there is one element which is not there in any of the prior arts, then it is novel and inventive both. So a thing may not be novel but can be inventive. I don't think that scenario can exist.
So it has to first novelty,
Correct.
then it has to satisfy inventive step. I
Correct.
cannot check for inventive step before I check for novelty.
Correct. Absolutely. So first step is to check novelty and then check the inventive step.
It is so in the act also. So
Yeah. I think our patent act is beautifully written. For example, the definition of patent means an invention under this act. Then the definition of invention means a new product or a process having an inventive step and capable of industrial application. So all the
right.
elements are there in the definition itself, and they are one by one. Like you need to first check whether
Yes.
it is novel, then check subject matter
Inventive.
eligibility, then check inventive step, and then check utility.
Correct. Absolutely. I agree with that.
So let's say hi to Mitch. Mitch, thank you for joining from California. You join us regularly, and we are privileged that you join us regularly.
Hi, Mitch.
Yeah. So I think that's all we had about inventive step. Shalini, do you want to add anything else to it?
Um, I think for me, when I hear about inventive step, I am always reminded of the Tabor windsurfing
Yeah.
case that was taught. And I think that was the one where it was windsurfing international versus Tabor Marine, right? So whether claims to a sailboard were obvious or not.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're looking at inventive step, you have to look at whether the invention is obvious, and for that you have to judge whether at that time, immediately before the priority date, whether that inventive step or that concept would have been obvious to a person skilled in the art. So that time is also important.
Correct, absolutely. Because we'll have to judge it from the date, like the date of priority. Before that, we'll have to take the documents and consider
Yes,
it.
correct, immediately before that, so it cannot be all over the place
Correct.
right up until examination.
Absolutely. So Abhinav has the question: is characterization of claim with inventive step an added requirement by the patent office, or it is there? It is there in the act itself, Abhinav. As I just told that the definition of invention itself includes technical inventive steps. So because it is a requirement in the act, the patent office has to adhere to it. They can't just move away with the requirement. Then he
Right.
says, and Shalini, you will be happy to answer this question. I think you have taken this question before as well. The inventor should be in possession of invention. What about that? Is it required that he has a prototype, he has the invention, or it should be a concept in the mind of the inventor?
When you are filing for patent, in fact, today also I took this call as someone had called me up at this, and I said that no, you don't have to. in which case file for a provisional application and then take the next year or 15 months with extension and submit, put the flesh and skin and everything on your and features on your patent application and submit a complete, by which time then you would have fleshed out all the details. So
Correct.
no, at the time of filing, no. At the time of complete, let's say you're still working on finishing the prototype. At least by the time the your hearing comes along, you should have something to show the examiner, because if your invention is only in theory and the examiner wants to understand it better, like we have shown videos of our invention, we have shown actual pieces of our invention over video conference, and it has helped our case a lot.
Yeah.
So yes and no.
Yeah. So, Abhinav, the crux of this is the patent office is not going to ask you for the prototype at the stage of filing. So, you may or may not possess the prototype, but you should be absolutely clear with your invention what would be their components, how the components will function, and how they'll be utilized or used. In any manner. So your concept, your idea should have a lot of clarity at the time of filing. Once that is there, you can develop the prototype later also patent office may or may not require, but if you have, it will give you an edge.
Right.
So yes. So I think, Shalini, will wind up the session. Any last words or concluding remarks?
I opened it, so let's have you conclude it.
He says I don't agree, to be honest. So
About having a prototype.
prototype.
Fair enough. If you can get by without having a prototype, more power to you. But in the case of, let's say, pharmaceutical product, then they do look for best case, all the use cases, and a graph and
Very much.
charts and all sorts of things. With your different factors being varied and showing what efficacy you get. So yes, they do look for it. So if you don't have it, then that's going to be difficult. Even in the case of um, wherever you're claiming that there are these different things that can happen, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, and they will look for pictures or a video of the prototype. But if it is something, let's say a windmill, and you don't have a prototype, but you have discussed it in theory, then maybe you'll get by.
Yeah, so Abhinav, like we said, it is not a requirement by the patent office that you will have to show the prototype. But for clarity, it is always better that you have a prototype by the stage of hearing, because then you will be in a better position to argue your case. You will have a lot of clarity on your invention itself. And
Right,
that clarity is what we require.
right,
Not the prototype in the sense that you'll have to pick the prototype and give it to the patent office will not ask for it. It's very rarely that they ask for the prototype, but a lot of clarity is required, because you have to argue with the invention that this is a workable invention and this is how the invention works. So I think for that it is like kind of give you an advantage if you have one. Yeah. So I think we'll wrap up now. Thank you, Shalini, for your time. It was, as usual, wonderful interacting with
yes,
you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take-
And thank you to everyone who joined in today.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We love being here on Tuesdays.
Yes. See you.